Mike, how's it going today?
Great, Frank. Right. Good to see you. How are you, my friend?
I am doing fabulous.
Great week?
Yeah, great week.
Good. I'm excited for today's episode. Who are we diving into today?
We're going to dive into a gentleman his name is Jeffrey Allen.
I am so excited for this episode.
Yeah, and he's an energy worker, energy healer.
Yep.
He actually teaches people how to work with their own energy. And I like the way he explains it and describes it because it takes it to its more simplistic form.
Yeah.
Because I believe every human being, at some level we know this, but we've given it up to outside beliefs that kind of keep this information away from us, if that makes sense. But we'll get into that. Hopefully it makes sense by the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny. I came across Jeffrey Allen. I was watching some Mindvalley videos. Mindvalley's this company. I don't know if I'm sure some of you guys out there have heard or listened, seen some of the content online. But Mindvalley, it was how I was introduced to Jeffrey Allen. And it was funny because as I was researching him this week, I realized that, oh shit, so he met the Mindvalley gentleman. I forgot that guy's name. It's a hard name to pronounce. But the creator of the Mindvalley, he met Jeffrey Allen met him at an event. I think it was in Thailand or something like that. They hit it off. And then he actually started doing some courses at Mindvalley. And Mindvalley gave Jeffrey Allen kind of the platform online that he needed in order to really reach a large audience. And so I thought that was cool. A couple of things I wrote down. So he trains and teaches a duality quest thing at Mindvalley, like a course. He also does an unlocking transcendence quest over at Mindvalley, and so I thought that was cool. So you can check out a lot of Jeffrey Allen's content with Mindvalley. So if you're looking for extra information on Jeffrey, he does have his own YouTube channel, his own website, but there's a lot of good information that he shares on Mindvalley. Other than that, I thought his story was cool. You know, he started as a software engineer, computer engineer, normal 9-to-5 type of situation. And then from there, kind of found himself tiptoeing into these different intuitive types of the intuitive type of work. And so he found himself like, as he says, living kind of a double life. And he's like, I'm doing this normal 9-to-5 computer software gig, but I'm going to different energy healing, intuitive courses, learning how to, use my consciousness in the evenings. And he's like, and then after developing that, he realized, man, I'm in the wrong business. I'm a healer. And so I thought that was a cool background story.
Yeah, because he came to the point where he combined both of them because he explains it in a lot of scientific way with the energy anyway. Yeah. But yeah, as far as how we met the owner or the creator of Mindvalley, was he actually he showed up to an event where he was going to speak at and talk about his energy healing, and he just had a meditation, and he was told to go to a bar, I guess in the hotel or somewhere near around. So he went, and he himself said he's not a drinker or anything. Mm-hmm. So he went there, and that's when we ran into him.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so utilizing, and that's what we're going to get into. Mike and I have always pressed upon this, learning to use our own intuition where we don't need outside information will actually put you in the right place at the right time every time. It's just about becoming familiar with it. Most of us, we all use our intuition momentarily, but we're going to get to a point where we use it all the time. Or what I like to say is your default is using your intuition, and then when you slip out of it, you don't. But that's okay because you learn how to deepen your intuition by doing that. So, and someone like Jeffrey Allen actually teaches people how to get into that state and use your own intuition.
Well, it's funny for me, like growing up, going to school, living in the Western, world that I grew up in, we were taught, to utilize the thinking mind, that the thinking mind was all we had and that we should always be thinking. And we would validate this information by the world outside of us, this is right, this is wrong. And the approach that Jeffrey takes with the intuitive mind is completely opposite of that, and it feels right and it feels good and it resonates. So I think that will resonate with a lot of people, listening in on this conversation is that we come here with everything we need.
Yeah, and that's what happens when we were young. We would do things without any realization or explanation. We gravitate towards our friends, towards playing certain things, whether it's sports, whatever, you gravitated towards those attributes. Some of us were told to go play this sport over this sport, and probably ended up miserable for the people that did that, as parents gained more control over time. As you get older, they felt they had to control you a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And but the cool thing is the rediscovery of our own intuition. And we start to actually do that, go into it. We actually will move towards, say, what we call information or insight, perhaps a teacher or whatever, to help us along that road. We don't need information outside of us, but the information outside of us no longer is teaching us. It's actually just reiterating what we already know. And that's like anytime I had read a really good book, I realized, wow, as I'm reading this for the first time, I understand it. It's just regenerating or reiterating, I should say, what I already knew, but forgot I knew. So I'm actually coming to a place of remembrance of what we know.
Well said.
Yeah. And we knew it as children. So it's kind of getting back to that state, having a better time in life. But that's what happens is as we experience life, we do certain things. If we only focus on the outward world, such as what we're doing, somebody's going to come along and write a book on like, okay, if you do this, this, and this, you'll get this. I'm like, no. That person that did that just happened to do those things and ended up with that. But I've used this analogy before, but if there was 6 billionaires up on the stage debating the best way to become a billionaire, I would laugh because they're all billionaires. Mm-hmm. But yet there might be one way that I maybe relate to that one particular billionaire, if that's your goal. I'm just using it as an example, how to get there. But then you have to find your own way. But there isn't a right or wrong in that sense, other than there is a right way for you. If you follow your intuition, it will set. What it will do is open up your geometric pattern for you to follow.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. Actually, yeah. Do you want to dive into a video right now?
I was going to say, let's play a good video clip to kind of kick things off for this episode.
Yeah, this one's really good because this will go in and explain the way he explains it. And then Mike and I.
Is this an interview with the gentleman from Mindvalley?
Yeah, this is,
nice.
But I'm just showing the portion where he actually goes and explains it. So check it out. Here we go.
If you're a skeptic, if you're not sure about energy work, it's okay. I actually recommend that you question the things that you learn. So for me, the reason I have the beliefs that I have is because of the experiences that I've had. And when I share those experiences with you, hopefully you get some ideas and you'll go have some similar experiences to base your beliefs on. But I actually think that it's a little bit naive or a little bit foolish to just listen to my experiences and then base your beliefs solely on my experiences. So if you're skeptical, I just want to say, I gotcha, I'm that way too, but these are my actual experiences that built these beliefs up. All right, so, and I'm telling you that because this one might be a little far out for some people, a little bit of a stretch. Now, this technique that I use, this is so powerful, and what I use it for is helping me to manage complexity. So when I'm trying to scale up my business and I'm getting overwhelmed by the amount of things I have to do or the amount of ideas I have or the number of students coming through, I found that this technique is the one thing that I can do to like kind of take the heat off and make that easier. And I'll give you 2 ways to do it. So the geometry we're going to work with is called an octahedron. And when I say geometry, I'm not talking about a physical object. I'm talking about a 3-dimensional construct that you can create using your mind. Now, sometimes it helps if you have a visual, so maybe we can get a little visual and put it in here so you'll know what I'm talking about. But I'll just walk you through a quick exercise, because that's the easiest way to get it, is for you to have that experience for yourself. Does that sound good? Do a quick exercise? Okay. All right, so it's very simple. So just close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that there is a flower, like a rose, that's right out in front of you, maybe about arm's length out in front of you. And maybe you can visualize that, maybe you can just kind of feel it. What we're doing is we're working on that point that's straight in front of you. The rose is actually not the important part. Okay? Okay, so now that you got that, I want you to imagine you could place a rose directly behind you at about the same distance, so kind of about arm's length behind your body. So you've got these two roses. And then imagine that you're going to create one on the right side and on the left side of your body. So just kind of imagine, just visualize this, feel this around you. Okay, good. And now you're going to connect those roses to each other. So it's going to make kind of like a diamond shape around your body. So just in your mind, just visualize this line of energy. Straight line from the front to the right to the back to the left, and then the left to the front. So you got this diamond around your body. Okay, looks good. Now I want you to create a rose up above your head. And connect that rose to the rose in front, to the right, behind, and to the left. And if you're getting this right, you're noticing, now I'm inside a pyramid. It's kind of like a four-sided pyramid and I'm sitting in the middle of it. So just kind of focus on that till it feels real. Okay, good. Now, imagine that there's a rose down below you beneath your feet. And connect that rose with straight lines to those points on the front, the right, behind you, and on the left. So now you've got a pyramid pointed up, a pyramid pointed down. And as you do that, I want you to notice what starts to happen to you right now. Because you've created a very powerful container for energy. And this is one of the fundamental geometries of how space-time divides. And I've done some scientific research that's outside the scope of this talk, but if you want to read more about that, you tune into maybe Nassim Haramein and these teachers that are very in-depth scientists in this field. But for now, just have the feeling, because it's the experience, not the mental experience, the actual experience that's going to change you. Okay, very good. All right, so now that you understand that geometry, I want you to think of a project, think of something that's you're working on that might feel a little bit overwhelming. It might feel like you've sort of become your project, right? So for me, if I'm teaching, sometimes I can't stop thinking about the next class. I can't stop thinking about work. But I need to sleep, I need to have a personal life. So just imagine a situation like that for you. Okay. And now what you're going to do is, I want you to notice, where is that thought? Where is that activity where you're thinking about that project? Is it inside that container that you created, inside that geometry? Is it inside your body? My guess is yes. If you're feeling it, if you're thinking about it, it's inside of you. You've become the energy of your project. Now, very simply, you're going to just imagine that you can create the same geometry, it's a very simple little octahedron with a pyramid pointed up and down, and that you're going to create one out in front of you, maybe 20, 30 feet, maybe 10 meters out in front of you. And that geometry, that location, is where all that project excitement is going to go. So you're just going to feel it leaving your personal space, moving out into something just as powerful, but that's going to give you a little bit of private space for you. So just feel that energy moving out, and really let yourself see that geometry that you're putting it into. Because if you can see it, it's more powerful. And when I say see, remember, you can think imagine, you can think create. It's not, doesn't have to appear physically. Okay, very good. And then the next step on that is, when you think about your project, I want you to do two things, okay? I want you to remember, where did you put your project, right? So maybe I wake up in the morning, I've been feeling great, I need to get to work, but I'm kind of thinking more about something else. Not thinking about that project anymore, but I really need to focus on it. Because I've separated it from my space, I feel a little distance. So what you do is you just remember, where did I put it? I put it out here. I put that space out, I put it on the left side, I put it far out, and you just grab that geometry and you just bring it back around you. And essentially what you're doing is just like this, you'll notice that, boom, it's back on. I'm tuned into the students, I'm tuned into the class. That fast activity that was happening in my mind that I wanted to stop is now back on, because now I want it. Now I'm going to go back to work. And what's so cool about this is, when you start getting used to this, you start to have multiple projects in the space around you. And you can tune in very quickly. You can just take one kind of off the shelf, fire it up in your body, energize it, and then you know how to take it out and let it kind of go on its own.
All right. I love that.
I did that myself while I was going on. It was a nice little practice round.
Yeah. And what's interesting is what he described here is actually what technology is doing right now. So like whether it's on your laptop or home computer or your phone, we call those apps. So, but if you had everything on the computer at once, you wouldn't recognize anything. And that's where the overwhelm comes in. So this actual technique is to get out of the overwhelmment of what he calls the mental clutter.
Yep.
And creating this geometry.
I love this. And this was a technique that I saw weeks ago when we originally started talking about doing an episode with Jeffrey, because we also reached out to him to have him on the show. And this technique works. I've done this several times. And you can actually feel the difference, especially when you're setting something outside, like when you really have a lot of that mental clutter, or you're really overwhelmed, and you actually picture this sacred geometry that he's talking about, and setting the intention of, okay, I'm getting this out of my space. You can feel the relief of it. You can feel it moving, and it's because in a way you are actually moving it. You are moving this outside of your space, putting this into its own holding, if you will, this own shape that it's holding the essence of whatever's overwhelming you. And I thought this was a perfect clip to showcase that.
Yeah, and we all already do this, but not in the way he did it, where it will make it more efficient. So it's like when you're at home, you have certain activities you'll do when you go to work, so you're able to turn it on and off there. But this actually keeps you where it's seamless, because if you want to say, like for me, I'm writing a book, right? And a lot of times I'll sit in a certain position or a certain area in my house, so I'll do that and I'll get into the zone of it. But say I'm on vacation, how do I bring that? Because that would happen to me a lot. I would sit down to write it, and I'm like, no, I can't get into it. You have to wait till I get home. So by taking that image in your head, you could take it with it's like taking a document with you. Like years ago, when you did work before there were computers or the ability to transfer, if like you didn't bring the right laptop or the right device, I can't get to my files. Well, now wherever you go, your files are available to you. Yeah. So this is what this inward image does. No matter where you are, you can take stuff and go from here to here to here seamlessly and just compartmentalize it. You know what to do, because we're already doing this, but we're doing it in a very clunky way because it's reliant on the outside world. And guess what? Say I go to work and something's going on there, it disturbs me because I'm still relying on the outside world, and it needs to be this particular way, and it's not. All of a sudden, I then use that as an excuse to why it distracted me. Where when you do this inward work, nothing can go there because you're the one who created it. Yeah. But in the outside world, other workers, other people that you work with come in there. So when you do this, it actually will make the outside world seamless and easier as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like we're already doing this, but we're giving more homage to the outside world rather than the inner feeling.
I was just going to say, it's something we're already doing, but now it's bringing it home, bringing it inside, and, mentally reorganizing, if you will, where things are at and how things feel. Because a lot of us, at least from my perspective, how I experience things, I was never in tune with what was going on. I had to really slow down and begin to listen and check in with myself, different parts of my body. I realized I was just living life, doing my thing, it wasn't. Now I put my attention on my heart, my head, my legs, my arms, and you can kind of start to see where are things coming up for you. Or is it in the chest? Is it in the stomach? And all of these all of these are clues as to what's going on with the system. And so it's learning to trust our natural built-in system and utilize that to, reorganize.
Yeah, because that's what it is. Like even doing this exercise, you may look at it as, okay, I can compartmentalize my project and stuff. But actually, it does something even deeper. It actually wakens your internal guidance system, or your intuition is what's also known as. So even though you're not thinking you're working on your intuition, every time you go within and just contemplate your body, how you feel, like Mike was saying, you're actually revving up or waking up your intuition. The more we do that, the more intuitive we become. The more we focus on the outside world, we actually don't listen to our intuition. And then we only get replication of what's going on out there. And if I don't fit into this thing, I then try to fit myself into it. It's like, okay, here's in geometry too. We talk about this, we use this all the time. But you can't fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
So, and whether you're the square peg or the round hole, it doesn't matter. Just know which peg you have to fit into what section, and that's you're already geometrically sound. But once you try to fit into something else, then you think there's something wrong with you. I'm like, no, the square peg there's nothing wrong with the square peg. It just needs to go into its square slot, rather than the round hole, so to speak. So go and do an inner work. You'll realize, where do you fit into this tapestry of life? And it's brilliant, because there is only one of you in the world out of 8 billion people. All right, there's only one of you. So why are you trying to fit into some other realm? You can see correlations with other people. You can see correlations with the outside world, but they're showing us, am I moving in the right direction, or should I turn away from this? That's what they're showing. But when we go within and you feel that feeling of nice comfort, that's when you start the day. Not try to do this, so I'm going to have a great day today if this sale goes through. I'm like, no, that's a tough way to live, The great sale can distract you from the internal confusion, but it's temporary. This inner work will actually allow the sale to go through if it needs to go through in the moment.
Yeah. Well said. I love that part, because when I started to learn sacred geometry and how it kind of applied to this life, this is for like a whole nother episode. And there's actually this one gentleman I would love for us to cover on the show who talks about sacred geometry in an awesome light, and he's got a whole whole show on it. But the way we use our minds matters, and where we set attention, how we reorganize. We think that everything to see change outside of us has to be done in a physical manner, matter on matter. And the more that I learn about these concepts and things like that, I realize the outside world, you don't need to touch it. You don't need to do anything with the outside world. It's how you reorganize the inside world. And I think this clip that we just shared really showcases how brilliantly that can be done, and how subtly you can begin to see big changes, by bringing your work back on, setting it aside. And this doesn't need to be just work. This can be family, friends, romantic relationships, children, whatever. You can choose to reorganize your energy and use this geometry to hold its safe place.
Yeah, because it creates the ultimate efficiency is what it really does. Because that's what it is. A lot of times when you evaluate your life, it's like the amount of energy you're putting towards something, but you realize you're not getting the value. And everyone knows that. Like, you have an essence like of how much work I'm putting into this and how much value am I getting out of it. This type of technique can actually reorganize that to where you get the max value out of the energy that you're putting towards it. And when you do that, you don't get burnt out. We get burnt out not because of how much focus we give to something. It's we give focus to something that isn't working. So, like in what happens inward when I'm here to do something, I want to get pulled towards something, but I have a belief that's going against it. So that belief is actually disrupting the energy in my body. So it was the unwanted belief that was the problem, not the doing. So we think, I worked a lot of hours, say. I'm like, well, say you work 8 hours every day, and some days you're more tired than others. And we have all these excuses why. I didn't get to sleep. I didn't do this. I'm like, it's because you have all these weird beliefs. And then some days those beliefs work or are moving with your you're inward, and then some days they're working against it because you can't let go of the belief. You get into trouble. And like say the modalities of travel, right? And these are all would be individual beliefs. So like walking, driving a car, and flying an airplane. Well, you have to know when to use them. So if I was flying out of town and I'm home, well, I'll have to walk to my garage, into my car, drive the car to the airport, then park the car, walk out of that and get onto the airplane. So I have to know what modality, what belief to use in those situations. But if I try to use just walking the whole way, that'd be a very long way. If I just try to use my car, it'd be very difficult as well. If I try to use the plane, it'd be very difficult as well. So having all these, knowing when to let go and drop in where to use beliefs, kind of like he teaches, compartmentalize that, makes your life more efficient. And when it's more efficient, it's fun. We were very efficient as children. That's why we went, constantly going. And then I remember like passing out mid-sentence when I was a kid, because you're trying to fight sleep and stuff, and boom, next thing you wake up and did it again. Now we think about sleep and all this stuff because mind's so preoccupied with stuff that's not even happening. It's not even part of our lives, but we think it should be. Because when you watch the news, oh man, they'll tell you.
Oh, they'll tell you.
And so once you become...
then the commercial will have what you need to fix it.
Yeah, it's true, right? If you notice, most of the commercials are like drug commercials.
Yeah.
Which
is also very odd that, these states allows us
like
to do
anxiety.
that.
Like you wouldn't have anxiety if you didn't watch the news. So you wouldn't need whatever medication they're pushing these days.
That's how it works.
So, so that's outside information that's not relevant to you at the time. So, it creates a... dysfunction in the body. So, but we're trying to think our way. Why is this happening? So then you create another story, another belief around it, creating more chaos, more clutter in the house, so to speak. Like if your coffee table has a lot of shit on it, buying a new coffee table and putting it next to it isn't going to resolve the problem.
That's very true.
You can eventually put more shit on that coffee table. It's clear the damn coffee table up and look at the house you have. You don't need more furniture. You just need to be able to see the furniture. And in us, we have this. We all came here with our with structure in our DNA as a genetic makeup that was come here and to live our life. And yes, there's stuff clouding over it. But as we lift that up and get rid of it, and as we work on our intuition, like Mike was talking about sacred geometry. That explains what's happening, but you really don't need, like, if that's not your bag, if you will, you don't need to know anything about sacred geometry. Just like say like Tom Brady, and he might know about physics and the law of trajectory and stuff like that. But there's a physicist out there that knows more than him, but can't throw the football anywhere near he can.
Yeah.
So, even a little kid, he grabbed the football and threw it, and he realized he could throw it pretty far. But he knew nothing about the physics of it. He just knew how to implement it. So going into your intuition, you got to learn how to implement these things. Yes, like Mike and I like to dive into the intellectual studies of it, but it's not necessary. It really isn't. Sometimes if I go too deep into it, I get disturbed inside and realize, man, I just want to relax. I don't need to read another damn book, Yeah. And that's kind of what this Jeffrey Allen is talking about, is because in this first clip, he's having you go through the experience of it. And then when you experience it, you're like, man, this works. I'm like, well, do it in every aspect of your life. It really does. It's, because there is only one aspect of your life, and it's energy.
Yeah.
We just compartmentalize it in the outside world. But inward, it's how we feel while we're doing, not try to do something to feel good.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. I think this next clip is great. I'm excited for us to share this one.
All right, here we go.
Every day is your workshop. So you don't need to sign up for a workshop. Everything you need is going to come to you, right? And you all know this. So think about your life. You've, out of the blue, the perfect things have come, whether it's a relationship, a job, an opportunity, could just be a book or a movie or something that inspired you and you pivoted in a way that was more aligned with your joy, right? You don't have to seek these things out. You don't have to chase life. It will come to you. Love will find you. And that's what I like to tell people. You don't have to chase it. And once you get that and you can settle into that and really get a sense of it internally, things will calm down, and you'll start to feel full, even if there's nothing outside indicating that you should be feeling that way. There's no number you can look at, or number of likes or reach or money or something outside. You're like, I feel really good today. Okay, that's enough. That's actually, it's not just enough, that's the goal, is to have that feeling all the time. Or to be floating on that feeling as much as it's available in this moment, right? It's still going to move around. You're never going to get up to this perfect place where you're always peaceful, always feeling full, no pain, no injuries, everything's in the bank. Like, you're never going to sustain this perfect state. Nobody does.
Yeah,
that was perfectly said.
I was going to say, this is one of my favorite clips of Jeffrey, because he really nails it on the head. So he's saying, earlier in this clip, he's explaining, like, hey, we all have spiritual teachers, guides, that we reach to for this information. We all have this information that's being shared with us. You can take these different workshops and courses, and, that's all great, and it'll help you learn about yourself. But at the end of the day, the number one workshop that is going to be your life, and that is so powerful, because when I heard this clip, I was like, oh man, he just really captured the essence of everything. There is nothing outside of us that we need to do to learn about ourselves or anything like that. It's all coming to us. And so as these situations come up in our life, in our relationships, in our personal family life, all that, these are all meant to teach us about ourselves, show us where we're at, where there's a hang up, where there's something, pulling at us. And it's in that a gift is available to us. These gifts of letting go, not striving, not fighting something, not wanting more, not wishing more, but really coming back into a state of homeostasis.
Yeah, and the best way to look at it, like in the first clip we showed where he did that kind of meditation where you close visualize, what was really working there is not the visualization, it was you were present. And just listening to Mike and I and looking at this clip, you're actually being present. This is why you feel good. Now, say you were, watching the show, but you were thinking about work. You were dividing your energy, one to work in the show, and that's aggravation. But you're actually thinking it's something else. So when we give our time and energy to the moment, things are drawn to us because our field starts to expand. We become like the honey to the bear, and trust me, the bear will find the honey. The honey doesn't need to seek out the bear. Yeah. And the more we stay present, so if you're reading a really good book or you're staying and just giving attention to your body, what have you, that is the work, is getting lost in the moment. And when you do, inadvertently, what happens is these ideas come out of you. They call it the pregnation of the woman. And then when we actually go act it out, we actually give birth to it in the physical world. But the idea or the feeling is the insemination. And then because we want to see it fulfilled and we trust it, we follow that thread. We don't chase it, we follow it. And all of a sudden, we give birth to the outside world. And it's a brilliant experience that continues over and over and over again. But if you're looking for the baby before the woman was even pregnant, good luck. It's not going to happen. And what I mean is getting right with how you feel inside and then express outwardly. Like Michelangelo, I remember when he was getting ready, he had a slab of marble in front of him, a huge chunk of it. And he's sitting, I forgot, maybe it was like 3 weeks or 3 months, I forgot what it was. He literally sat there and was just contemplating. And everyone was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm waiting for the vision to come into me to know where to start removing the excess marble. Because what it was is he knew something was in there, and it happened to be David. But he contemplated, and what he was doing, he was getting into a state of purity, to where there was no thoughts, no one bothering him, to go in before he even picked up the tool, because he hadn't given birth to it yet. What was he going to chisel away? He would end up with a toothpick by the end of that.
Well, using the thinking mind, yeah.
Yeah, so most people just go out and do stuff, a replication of what we did yesterday and the day before last year, and we wonder why our results are horrible. But get into the state first. So I contemplating a meditation first thing in the morning, and then in that state, watch what happens. The work you do, that will be brilliant. You know, that wasn't Michelangelo's first, sculpture he's ever done, but he's very well known for it.
That's a great point, though. It is getting out of the thinking mind into that resting state, and then the beauty starts to happen. Another cool thing at the end of this clip that he shared that I thought was great was he said, "We're this perfect place. We're all shooting for this perfect place," and I know what he means. And it's like this idea that I just learn this one technique or this, and then all of a sudden I'm not going to have any problems, or anything I perceive as issues or anything like that. But the reality is, as he says, everything is moving, and that's what's going on. And so to think that we're just going to be in this perfect state at all times with no pain, no physical pain, no issues, etc., and we're just ecstatic, that's not the case. It's because everything's in motion, because everything is always in movement. And so the more that you can kind of relax into that and understand and remember, it takes this pressure off of this place that you have to be, or that this state that you're working towards or trying to achieve, and you then fall back more into your most natural state. That state of neutrality.
Yeah, the fifth law is change is the only constant. So perfection is like this little blimp. Like the perfection for a skateboarder on a half pipe will be the moment when they go down into the pipe and come up at the other side to elevate higher than they started. But it's the moment where they're not going up or they're not falling down. It freezes. And that, in the value of time, how that's a split second compared to the rest of it. But all the work that had to go in was part and parcel of the whole gig just to get to that perfect moment that just died. It just went away because gravity pulled them back down to the pipe. That's what we do it for. But if you're just looking for that moment and that's all you want to focus on, you'll never get on the skateboard, so to speak, and go down the pipe because it's too laborious for that one. I'm like, no, that's the brilliant thing. So the whole enactment of everything that we do is perfect. Like for the moment we run our day and to the moment we just pass out and fall asleep and then start over again, that is the game.
That's why people say it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, but the destination is part, so it's all connected. You can't even take the destination out because the destination shows you how well you've done. All right? Okay, not like by critiquing from the outside, but how did you feel? Most people feel great about doing something. If someone comes like, I don't like that color. I don't like the shape of that thing, or whatever it is. And all of a sudden you feel bad. Why? Because someone gave you a definition that outside critics matter, and you ran it against yours. Like, I felt when you did something, you felt great. All of a sudden, somebody's belief came in because you were given this concept, and all of a sudden you feel bad, and then you start to examine your work. And I'm like, well, that moment passed, but how did you feel when you're doing it? That's all that matters. That's why, like. Art is a very interesting thing, I'm like, you can go in, when I look at art, I look at, like, what was the feeling that the person had? Can I extract it out of just looking at it? Like, music is an easy way to do it. You can tell. And, like, it doesn't matter what the feeling is. It's love or anger. I'm like, you get some music from the 90s, right? A lot of anger and darkness. But I'm like, it's brilliant, though, because they express their anger and frustration brilliantly through their music. That's why we like it. It's not to say, don't listen to that. I'm like, no, they weren't faking it. They were brilliant in it. Then there are people that try to write a love song, or they'll try to write an anger song. I'm like, yeah, they're not really angry enough. That's not a good song. Like, they're not expressing. Yeah, they're not expressing their energy properly, and it seems kind of popish, right? Like, that's how but when you get the true artist, that comes through, it's like, man, that person, like some woman ripped his heart out. Yeah. And you can tell, or that guy experienced God. You can tell, all these different artists, whether musicians and just the everyday person, you can tell. And that's why we love actors, because you can tell when an actor is imbuing the feeling
Yeah.
then expressing outward, where when they're not, it's like you're watching a weird soap opera.
Well, that same feeling,
Yeah.
we can. I've known that my whole life, and I know there's individuals out there who felt this same way. But like, you can tell, it's the same reason we're drawn to like different people in different industries or things like that. You can sense when something is genuine.
Yeah.
You can tell when somebody is, putting a face on, or full of shit. And so there's just something about, when someone is speaking truth, it and you can feel it, and there's no room for judgment because it just is, it's truth.
Yeah. And talking about the compartmentalize, like how Jeffrey teaches you to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't been to one of her concerts lately, is Alanis Morissette.
Oh, nice.
So,
My sister loved her.
Her album there was a lot of anger there. But
Jagged Little Pill, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was brilliant. Like every song, I don't think there was one bad song on the album. It's like one of the top albums of all time.
That was a great
in my opinion. But then Alanis moved into this very spiritual place, So then I remember I was listening to an interview with her, and the person's like, well, eating certain food, getting to a different level is efficient. So I understand the whole getting more into vegetables and stuff like that, because
is to really find our own space in this world, where it is totally and utterly you.
Yeah. And clear it out.
What I used on my own personal journey to kind of go deeper and deeper is I was like, look, okay, I've been handed a ton of beliefs. opinion around those and said, this is the way the world is, simply because we were told it, never because we actually felt that way or witnessed it or experienced it for ourselves, but just because we were told that way. And it's in allowing yourself to let those things fall away that you begin to really come into yourself.
Yeah, because understand, like, you're telling stories. So at some level, somebody who made the story up to work for them, just kind of like, if you have like a diesel truck, regular car, and now we have electric cars. I'm like, but if the person who captured the story owns a diesel truck, you're going to tell you have to put diesel fuel in your vehicles. I'm like, well, the car that runs on gasoline, it's not good for the engine, and where the hell would you put it in the electrical car? So, so we think that like these stories came about for a reason, like it worked, or these beliefs came out for a reason. They work for somebody at some period in time, but it's not going to, it might not fit into your structure at this point in life. A lot of things, some things will, but the replication of stories, that's what I like. Is seeing the interaction of stories. So Mike and I will feature all these different people on our show to see the 1-0 point that they all have. That's why we're doing it. But they're all telling it differently. One isn't better than the other. As you watch it, you might prefer one because of your journey where you are, and that preference might only last a year or may last a lifetime. You might take one of these people and listen to them every day for the rest of your life, and that is 100% okay. But then you might go back and forth, and what people think, like, because people look at staying on track of something, and they might look at it and be like, oh my God, like I was listening to this guy, I don't listen to him anymore, now I'm on to the next one. When's this ever going to end? Or because they think it's like they're all over the place. I'm like, well, I call it the Michelangelo Syndrome, or the Michelangelo situation, and the Leonardo da Vinci situation. One is Michelangelo maintained throughout his life his artwork. He did painting and sculptures. Where Leonardo da Vinci did, he could put up his paintings in Mona Lisa and several other ones, but he also was science. He was an inventor. But everything he did with the same girth, the same energy. He wasn't like, I'm not going to, okay, he wasn't like Michael Jordan in basketball and Michael Jordan in baseball. He was Michael Jordan in basketball all the time, Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. So you might have a life where you're going from here to here to here to here, and then somebody else might just be here and just go in that. You're not wrong. It's just different. And so when people are trying to get you in a single track, you might question. It's in the questioning, again, new belief coming in, that's disrupting your body, not the actual thing you're doing.
Yeah,
we have to be careful of that. No, Michael Jordan was definitely a better baseball player than I, so I shouldn't knock him on that. But he knows for basketball, damn, there's no way he's going to compete to that. So that's that funny. Level.
No, but that's a good analogy. And this next clip that we have really kind of helps to showcase what Frank was just kind of talking about. Let's dive into this one.
All right, here we go.
Probably some of the most practical one is stop trying so hard. So we all have this idea that smarter's better, and we want to be the smartest person in the room, and we want to have our own shows, right, and our own programs, and if people listen to us, we're important, and then we should listen to important people. And these are just ideas. These things aren't true. So everybody's important inherently. It doesn't matter if anybody's listening to you or not, right? And you don't need to listen to anybody else to get your information. You have all your information already. Like nobody else has your information. I don't have your information. You have it. And so, changing and getting to turn down the mind, it's kind of just getting that aha, that like, I don't need my mind all the time. It's like if I'm driving my car in Tokyo. I recently bought a car after many years without. And there's sometimes, like, the navigation is like that mind, right? I can turn on this navigation system. It'll give me precise, hopefully helpful instructions for how to get everywhere. But sometimes I can drive without it. Like, I don't need that on to drive to the gas station. I don't need it on, to go visit somebody I know. But the habit is to turn it on all the time now, and it's just barking these instructions, and then I'm following them. But somebody's really laughed at me a few times where I'll make a turn, and she'll say, "Why did you go this way?" And I'll say, "Well, the navigation system told me, and I know that it's connected to the the GPS and to the traffic monitoring and everything. So I assumed it knew what it was doing. And she's just laughing. She says, but if you like looked with your eyes, didn't you notice that there's something happening over here and that the place we're going is over there, or that there was traffic here but not here? Like your eyes had all this information that's valid now. But I was like, I'm looking to this outside source. And it always makes me laugh too. And I kind of wake up and say, oh, it's true. I don't need all this external information. And I don't really need to think that much. We just have this habit, that we should use our mind all the time. And realizing that and getting out of the habit, and also, getting out of the idea that we should measure ourselves by how well we're doing in our mind, letting those things go are really important. They're really critical. I could give you different steps, like here's 3 things you could do or 4 things you could do. But I think it's more powerful to say, just stop following all the steps. Let yourself be open. Take a day off and don't do anything. Turn your phone off for an hour and see what happens. Listen. What do you want to do today? If you don't want to go to work today and you don't have to go to work, well then don't. Do something that you want.
You better not work for me with that attitude. No.
Love it, Frank. This is honestly my favorite clip. Was this one right here? I love this.
Yeah.
He captures the essence of everything so well in just this one clip. This, for me, on my journey, was one of the most important things that I needed to learn, which is, hey, you don't need to be thinking all the time.
No.
For some reason, my whole life, I thought I needed to be narrating and speaking and chatting the entire time in my head about what's next, what's to come, what I'm doing, am I heading in the right direction, all this stuff. And you don't need to be going a million miles an hour in the mind. In fact, the more you turn the mind off, the more you get outside of that, that's when the magic starts to happen.
Yeah, I love the analogy with the GPS.
Yeah.
It was like, if you go into a place you've never been before, utilizing that is appropriate. But when where your friends live, you don't use it. And that's what we do, is we continuously think all the time where thinking isn't needed.
Yeah.
We're using the mind in a very inefficient way, and that's what's creating the breakdown of the human physiology, of the energy breaking down. So if we use less energy, we have more path of least resistance going in us. It's easier to stay in that good feeling place. Now, in the beginning, when you're starting this out, just try close your eyes for like a minute. That's it. And just give your attention to how you feel inside. Yeah, try to vision like what Jeffrey started out with the first piece, where envision a tetrahedron and then putting 2 of them together, and now you got the octahedron, right? And then fitting yourself in that and then putting it over here. And when you do that, you literally become present, because you can't let any thought about work or anything else. You're actually present with your mind in that moment. And all of a sudden you notice, man, just by doing that, I feel good. I'm like, okay, that's the state that you're looking for. That's where you want to be at all times. So throughout your day, when you're not feeling good, just go in and close your eyes and notice you're feeling good. And don't be like, why am I not feeling good? Just get rid of that. Just notice how you feel. And that is contemplation. That's a meditation. And all of a sudden it just starts to dissipate. Then from there you can pick up and carry on where you want to go.
And we knew how to do this since we were young kids.
Oh, we did it, yeah.
This was when we were in our prime at this. I watch this with my girlfriend's kids all the time. They know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And to them, they're like, why would I do that? That doesn't feel good. I don't want to do that. Yeah. But we were told it doesn't matter how it feels. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what needs to be done. And so we start to ourselves going, okay, so when I don't feel good, I have to wonder that maybe I'm wrong and that I should be doing something else, and that's the way it is. Yeah. And that's where this whole mental reality that we build out comes from, which is we've had these bad ideas shared with us in the past about the way things are. And so it doesn't matter how you feel, this is what you need to do. And so we start questioning when something feels wrong to us. We say, oh, I need some verification from somebody outside of me. This feels right, but I need somebody to tell me that it's right. I need somebody to give me a certificate and say, this. You can now move on to the next grade.
Yeah, and actually think about like the word matter, right? It doesn't matter how we feel. And actually, it really does matter how you feel.
Yeah.
What doesn't matter is situation, circumstance, and they don't create physical matter. How we feel literally creates geometric patterns. And then the outside world, it's kind of like light. Light is white, but until it hits a raindrop, it fragments into what we call the rainbow, the different colors. So it's the energy, or the light would be the feeling, and then when it hits the physical realm, it then creates this beautiful rainbow, which is the art of the light. So when we actually have a feeling, that creates matter. So if it's a feeling of joy, you're going to see joy outside of you. If it's a feeling of hatred, you're going to see hatred. So whatever source is coming through that little prism is going to represent the outside or the other side of the prism. What's the structure of light? Is it dark and dingy, or is it brilliant? So how we feel literally matters. It actually is the only thing that actually creates the matter. And then the outside world just reflects back to us. Do we want to continue this matter, or do you want to change the matter? And how do you change the matter? Change the way you feel.
Yep.
Everyone knows that. I can go from happy to angry quickly, like everyone can. If you're an actor, like you learn to act, like you can do that. I could take my voice from here to here, right? All I did is change the structure willingly to do that. But what's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of using anger? Now, if I'm being triggered by something else, somebody owns me, and I don't like that. And there is no insertion in life. I just adapted a belief that if someone does that, I get angry. So they don't really insert me. They don't really own me. I just believe they do. So I'm trying to get rid of the people that make me angry. Good luck with that one.
But that's what we do.
Yeah. And we create these little structured beliefs. So when the light comes in, we create this prism that just puts out bad colors. Like, well, let's restructure that prism.
And we've also been taught that it's a justified and reasonable explanation to say this person outside of me makes me feel this way, and that's their fault.
Yep.
They shouldn't be making me feel this way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the scary thing that our world's going through right now, which is, hey, I'm justified in thinking that I'm allowed to be upset or mad or angry or hurt because this person outside of me made me feel that way.
Yeah.
They are wrong. That I should not feel this way. They made me feel that way.
Yeah. So now the question is not to say if it's right or wrong to feel that way. Ask yourself, how is that working for you? Like, how can you deal with the moment someone does something, being angry or being sad or being upset isn't going to get you out of the situation that person that you claim put you in there. So how do you make it around it? Because, you can silence them, but then somebody else is going to come along and do that. Do it again and do it again and do it again until you finally realize, no, just let it pass by you like the wind passes by a screen door. And you just capture what you need to capture with the screen. And when you get really good at this, and that's what it is, like if you're getting response from somebody saying something, you get dinged of it and saying like, oh, I'm not doing good at this. Like, no. Like, you're doing really good at this. Now examine, how does that feel? Like, where's the anger in your body? Because you just created, like Jeffrey said, you create a geometric shape inside of you that isn't fitting. It's the square peg into the round hole. Well, how do I make this square peg find the square hole? Okay, go within. And when you start to feel that anger, like, take the definition of what they did out. That's not relevant anymore, because what they did, if someone does something, it literally is in the past. Because the second my body feels it, they already said the word. It's no longer here. But I keep replaying it. I still try to take the square peg and put it in a round hole. Why isn't it working? Because it's round and that's square.
And this is what the mind does.
Yeah.
And this is why I loved how Jeffrey said it. Habit to use the mind all the time. We are all stuck in this crazy habit of using our mind for everything and acting as if that is normal.
Yeah. And so start these little things. Like he says, like I do this. It's easy for me to do it because of my age. But the cell phone, I don't look at it to a certain point in the day.
Yeah, I don't do that in the morning either.
Yeah. Now, I say it's easy for me because I didn't grow up with it. I didn't grow up with it. You know, I look at it for my scheduling, and I watch my YouTube videos, or I listen to my YouTube videos when I'm driving a car. You know, any police officer out there, I'm not watching it. I'm just listening.
Not watching.
No. So when you see me, don't pull me over. But yeah, so I'll do that, but I don't use it to distract myself. When I find myself getting bored of picking up my phone, I laugh. I'm like, okay, now's the time to close my eyes because there's some disturbance going on inside, and I'm trying to figure out how I can get rid of it, how I can distract myself. And I'm like, no. When I go in, I close my eyes, and like within 30 seconds, it's just okay. It's gone. Now I don't even want to look at my phone. But now I'll go for a walk in the park or go back to the gym or, you know, have a lovely conversation with my wife.
Whatever that may be. Nicely said.
Yeah.
But that's the truth. You'll start to feel these things come up, and what do? We push them away, and we say, "Oh, I need to go get a drink after work, or I need to use my phone." All we're searching is for, and when we're doing that, is dopamine hits.
Yeah.
And you can, there's great books on here. Like Jeffrey Allen in a clip we did not share, he talks about this book called Dopamine Nation. Everything we do is to get out of a certain feeling. So when we're like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. Well, ask yourself, well, why am I not just okay right now? Why am I not just okay in this moment? Why do I need to be doing this?
Yeah.
And you'll see, and I've done this personally, but what you're chasing is dopamine. You want the hit for, checking your Facebook, checking your Instagram.
Yeah, because dopamine is the chemical in our body that makes us want to do stuff.
Yeah.
So why we always wanted to do stuff. So that's why we're chasing dopamine, because when you get it, you want to do stuff. But then there's a belief that says, I always have to be doing stuff. But if you're just chilling out in a nice, relaxed state, why is that bad? And that's the problem. So we're trying to figure out more ways to get dopamine hits more healthier. I'm like, but why?
Healthier dopamine.
Yeah, well, like, hey, cold water will rise your dopamines up, right? It does a bunch of stuff, and it does. But why? So you can work out more?
Yeah, right.
Go inside. Really, why am I doing this? Why do I need a heavier dopamine hit? I'm not saying don't do it. But when you actually come from within and understand why you're doing it, it has a completely different thing where people are like, oh, they're like, how's your day going? Oh my God, how much I did today? I'm like, I didn't ask how much you did. I said, how's it going? And the reason I laugh about that, because I was that person.
Yeah.
I would tell people like, oh, how was your week? Oh, I did this, did that. I'm like,
productivity.
Yeah, how did you feel while you were doing it? Right? That's the brilliance of it. Not like how much did you get done? How did you feel? Because, hey, whatever you did, if you felt great, you did it beautifully.
But that's another thing that we're taught is based on our productivity, how many things we accomplish. This allows us to either earn the relaxed feeling that we're giving ourselves, or pretend like we don't deserve it, and then we just kind of suffer through when we could be relaxing as well. Yeah,
and you can relax while you're doing
because
everything.
You didn't check enough to-do items off this. Imagination created.
Yeah.
List of to-do. And
that's the story of the tortoise and the hare, right?
Yep.
Like it wasn't that one was better than the other, because the hare is meant to run, the tortoise is meant to do what the tortoise does, but they both make it to whatever place they go. Like one does we always look at the hare as being anxiety. Well, if you actually took the hare and made him walk. A move as slow as a tortoise, its head will explode. Yeah. It would just simply explode. Let the hare run. Let the tortoise do what it's going to do. There are moments in my day where I'm a tortoise. There's moments in my day where I'm the hare. And Karen's just trying to knock down one of those and trying to figure out when they ask me to do work. I'm like, I'm in my tortoise mode, honey. Leave me alone.
Trying to figure out which way.
She can't quite grab it at the right time.
That's hilarious.
Because I choose to be the tortoise most of the time.
There was a quote I wrote down that I wanted to share about Jeffrey that I saw when I was researching him. But so this is a Jeffrey Allen quote, and he said, and I thought it would be a good thing to share after this clip. But he says, in the next 50 years, most people will realize that they don't need someone else to tell them what's true. They don't need that third-party authority to inform them.
I don't think my wife's going to like that.
But this is the truth, man. This is so the truth. I'm so sick and tired of being told this is the way something is. This is good. This is bad. Like, hey, what do you think? None of that. Just presented that, hey, this Ukraine is now good, even though 4 years ago they were one of the most corrupt countries on this planet.
Yeah, it's all
but
perception.
now they're good, and so
Yeah.
now we need to give them billions of aid. We're told constantly what's good, what's bad, what needs to happen, what's not. We're not allowed to make our own decisions. And if you try to make your own decision, it's what's your source, what's your facts,
Yeah.
what's this, and it's like me,
God.
my feeling,
Yeah.
this doesn't sound right. This doesn't seem like it's working. You know,
And actually, it's true. Whenever I present information to anybody that I'm around, and based on where the conversation's going, I don't insert it without a space to insert it. I'm like, this is how I look at it. It's not the empirical truth. The empirical truth is all truths are true. But again, if you're holding a square peg, find a square slot to put it in. All right. Know your shapes, know your feelings, but not everything is going to work exactly for everyone. There's going to be cross references, right? Like you'll see successful people and what we deem to be successful people in whatever area. There's a 0 point where they're all meeting, but everything else that branches out from there, it's all different. The further you get away from the 0 point, the more difference you see it. But yet what we deem to be successful is still holding value. But how they're doing it, it's completely different. And I think this is what messes people up now, because the variance or understanding of what success is completely different. You know, you have like a Sadhguru out there that doesn't chase money at all, but yet he's very successful. And then you have like Elon Musk, who's very successful. He doesn't necessarily chase money either, but he has, he's worth $300 billion, depends on what day of the week it is. And Sadhguru, I don't know what his net income is, but it's nowhere near that. But yet they're both successful. One isn't more successful over the other. They're not.
And
there
no
might
one
be
would say
areas,
that.
there might be areas with Sadhguru, like, because he's a mystic. But again, Elon Musk is fully diving into the physical world, but he still uses his inner vision because he is an engineer to create all this stuff. He has to use imagination. So it'd be hard pressed to tell me which one is better than the other. Now, if you're looking for spiritual guidance, I'm sure Elon Musk would tell you to go to Sadhguru,
Mm-hmm.
and
just like if you were trying to fly a rocket ship,
Sadhguru would tell you go to Elon Musk. They would compliment each other in that say, and that's because in this clip he said that everyone has a valued point here, like every thread in the tapestry is equal in value. You pull out one piece of thread out of a beautiful tapestry and tell me which one's better.
Yeah, right.
No, if you pull one out, all of a sudden you notice there's a tear in the tapestry, and all you can focus on is the hole in the damn thing, not the whole thing. It's we're all here to do our part. Stop trying to be a different piece of thread.
That's the truth.
And you go within. You don't need it without. But what happens is, the people that come around, like Mike and I, we complement each other. And then my wife and I would compliment people I work with. They compliment each other. But I am not the boss. I'm not in control. I'm just a piece of thread here that matches up with their portion of the tapestry known as life.
Yeah.
And then more people come, will weave into the tapestry, and it becomes brilliant. It's dance. And realize that wherever you go, pay homage to those situations. You might run into somebody that you'll never see ever again, but pay them homage. Don't go crazy. Like, oh my God, do you realize we're never going to see each other again? Like, you don't walk up to people, but just give it homage. Like, hey, that person just walked into my life and I'll probably never see them again. Just that split second moment will put you in a great feeling. This cosmic world is already pre-organized. We don't need to organize it. We just need to follow the organism, right? You don't see union strikes and stuff like that in the forest with The ficus, like, we're done with this bullshit. The redwoods take over. They get everything. We get nothing, you know?
Doesn't
and then
happen.
the mushrooms, like, how do you think we feel?
Self-organizing system, man.
The weeds, forget about the weeds. They don't like shit, you know? It's like,
Exactly. They're like, what the hell? We're at the bottom of the totem
They
pole.
keep ripping me out of the ground, people.
But that's a great example is in nature. How, you know, everything is happening in its own speed, own time. Plenty available for all, you know, all of that. We can live this same way, and we're starting to see this change. We're starting to see more people think this way, less that I am separate, and that, you know, we are, you know, in this together. We're all connected. Jeffrey talks about this too, because he lives in Japan, or I don't know if he's still in Japan, but at this one point, like in this video, he's talking about it. But in Japan, how safe it is, you know. And I've been to Japan a couple times, and I can vouch for that. It is extremely safe. And he was talking about how he felt this feeling he had never experienced before, and it was because danger was absent.
But it's also state of mind, because if, like, I lived in New York where people like, oh my God, I'm like, no, but I lived there, I grew up there, and I created safety in my mind, so nothing ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So once I utilize that as again, if I believe it's unsafe, I'm going to create a structure, you know, a physical structure, and then as my life shines through it, I'm going to actually see unsafe areas.
Yeah.
So be careful about that. Like, if you feel unsafe, do what you can do to back out of that, but to get into a place of safety. All right. Now, maybe he went over there and had seen different things that he hadn't seen. I don't know where he grew up, but that's how he created it, because I'm sure there's people in Japan that could say the opposite.
Oh, I'm sure.
And especially with tsunamis. No, I was joking.
Well, there's gangs and all that.
But I didn't mean to throw this into our heads, but the place isn't safe. The state we're in creates the safety around us. Because there are people that can walk into any situation. They could walk into a war and be unscathed, because they surround themselves with the, you know, like he explains, an oxyhedron, which is a sheltered thing. You know, don't break the sides of it. Don't let anything in. And we can do this through our life. We could create a structure around us and then walk through anything, you know, walk through any situation and not be scathed. Because in all these places that we deem to be harm, people live there day in and day out and make it to a ripe old age.
Yeah.
You know?
One thing that I wanted to mention, too, that I thought was a cool story, just while we're talking about him, is he met his wife in Japan, Jeffrey Allen, and they've been married now for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. But when they met, she was from Japan. He was not. She spoke Japanese. He spoke English. And they could not communicate.
That's the best marriage.
But they literally, Frank, that was really funny. They literally did not speak the same language and fell in love off of an energetic interaction and experience. And I want to say one of the things I was listening to him, he was talking about, he was saying, like, they were like year 10 in or something, and he still doesn't know all Japanese, and she doesn't know completely English, but they're closer. But the first, you know, it sounds like the first 10 years.
That's when the fighting starts. Once they start.
There wasn't much communication, and it was all feeling and interaction. And I just thought that was kind of cool, just because it's not common.
Yeah, remember when you were young, and it doesn't matter what sex you're attracted to, but when I remember I was young, sitting there, and I would see a girl from across the room, and I automatically felt I didn't need to know if she liked baseball. I didn't need to know that. I could just tell. There was this frequency. And then where the world order comes in, the understanding is like, oh, I have to present myself as an individual that has a status. So then as I went closer, so I went closer to the girl, I had to create this story that wasn't me, and then I got nervous. Yeah. And then energy breaks apart, and then the attraction gets lost. Attraction gets lost because we are magnetic beings, but if I flip the magnet, I create repelling, push away. So it's our thoughts. When you literally are yourself, you will attract the like attract. You don't want somebody that you don't want to attract to. People say, oh, this is the type of woman you want or the man you want, and they do that, but it never works out because it's not meant meant for you. Really, it's crazy. But when you do it, it's just automatic. Yeah, and the least you can actually talk, the better it is. No, I'm not just saying that.
No,
I've learned that.
But you're absolutely right. It is an energetic or an energy exchange that we're after, not a words are messy. They're dumbed down. They're clumsy. They don't often convey what we're trying to say.
Or if it depends. Like in other words, if I'm in an aggravated mood, and I can't refrain from speaking, it's not going to work for me. I'm going to get in trouble. So when I'm aggravated, I just get quiet and I go within and get rid of the aggravation. Like, why did you get aggravated? I don't give a shit why I just did. And then you do that. Now when I'm in a state of love, whatever I say to my wife or any of my friends comes out really good. But if I'm aggravated and I say something, all of a sudden now I have to be apologetic. Or if, like, when I was younger, I was very defensive, I would defend that to the deepest end and then get rid of you and get you out of my life. And that just didn't work out.
Yeah.
But yet at some point I was attracted to that person. What happened?
And a lot of people get stuck in there. I've gotten stuck in that too, where you feel like you have to defend this identity character of yourself, and that, oh my God, how dare this person think differently, or not agree with me.
Yeah.
And you're just strengthening this ego, identity, character, and that's not who you are.
No. It'd be like if you're a great actor and you won an Oscar, but at some point in your career you had a role that was not so good. That's not the role you present to your friends at the as you're meeting them.
Yeah.
Like what you can do is like, oh, look at me here. Now look at me here. I've obviously gotten better. Or greater in my craft, but you're actually going to go to the role that got you the Oscar and talk about that. So yeah, remember that. Don't watch the movie that you wish you never made.
Exactly.
Watch
over and over.
Over and over.
Because that's what we do.
Yeah.
We repeat things over and over.
Yeah, you can learn from that, but let it blossom into the role in which you're proud of, and then keep going from there. Because even win the Oscar, now you can the game's not over. It's like it never ends.
No.
And now it's not even about winning the Oscar. It's about becoming more intricate and subtle with your acting or whatever thing you're doing, and that's where it really takes off. Yeah, and you realize
that is an exciting part.
Yeah, it is exciting
because now you're participating in the experience.
Yeah, and it's never ending, and it's interesting about never ending. There's two ways of looking at it. It's like it's never ending, or this is never going to end.
Yeah.
It's an energy field.
And I'll pick the first one, all day long. Again, there's multiple ways to view this, but when you really step into yourself, you'll feel the gift you are. You'll feel this sense of wholeness that you've never felt before, and everything will just feel right. And it's there. It's there that you find yourself. Yeah,
and the structures of you come out. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and it feels good.
Yeah. So check out some of Jeffrey Allen's stuff online. I know he's hooked with Mindvalley as well. Yep. And, the thing I like about him, too, outside of what he's teaching, you can tell this guy lives and walks the walk. He's a very kind gentleman. You could just tell the way he is, he's not like forcing it. This is what you need to do. I've met people over the years in the spiritual, but that's just their attitude. I'm probably more like that, like you get this stuff, right? But he's just very peaceful, very calm.
He is very peaceful.
Yeah, so you can tell he imbues this into his system. He actually lives it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, that's that genuine factor that you can pick up on. Yeah,
and I think he has a bunch of courses on there, but one is like was it a 5-week or a 5-month one? I forgot what it was, but anyway, he
on his website.
Yeah, and he'll walk you through the energy healing system, and what it's really doing is teaching you how to reacquaint yourself with your own internal guidance system. Once you do that, you no longer need a GPS in your car or in your life. You just do it, and then you run into people all the time. It's not when I go on vacation, people don't ask me how I got there. Like I'm here. And then we just start having a conversation. But we don't value how'd you get here? Oh, I got here quicker than you. I'm like, you live closer. What's the big deal? That's not how you operate. But we tend to do that. We tend to how'd you get here? I'm like, it doesn't matter. We're here. What are we gonna do?
When you get here too, people are trying to figure out. It's like they're trying to size up the situation. Am I better than this?
I made it quicker.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, And it's like, no, it's not about that.
All that falls away when you start going within.
Yeah, it does. It just disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And very naturally, too. It falls away.
And it feels good.
And you're like, oh, that doesn't even matter.
No.
Yeah. And it's just a very normal feeling. It's not like you worked hard for that to fall away.
No. That's the thing, is it's simple.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this is right.
Yeah. So for a lot of people listening to this, maybe you're becoming reacquainted with this type of information. A lot of times I get this, people like, well, it seems hard. I'm like, well, it seems hard, but it really isn't. But I'm not here to tell you it's easy. You have to experience that. Because if you feel it's hard, you're going to experience hard. But just like anything we do, any craft you pick up, over time, it becomes easy. And, I remember, like Mike could probably contest this too, when I was starting to play guitar, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And then over time, now it get to a point where I'm like, it's no longer learning, it's about what am I going to play. I don't even think about it. I get into a state and then I just strum and this comes out and that comes out type of thing. Now, if I'm trying to learn somebody else's work, there might be difficulty in that. But if I'm just playing from my heart, that is easy. It's easy. But when I was first playing, I had to base off other people's work. My guitar teacher was showing me chords, and then he translated the chords into songs that are played by this. And then eventually I'm like, okay, I'm going to just mess around with my own music.
Yep.
And that's easy. Guess why? Because no one can say it was wrong because I created it. Mm-hmm. They might not like it, but it's not wrong.
That's
yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And there's nobody out there who's going to be able to tell you if you're in the right spot or if you've achieved enough or if you can be happy now or if you can be whole right now. That has to be you.
Yeah, if someone goes up to you and say, what are you doing here? I'd be like, what are you doing here? Like we're both here.
That's it.
And that's the funny thing about life is we often think you shouldn't be here. I'm like, well, why are you here?
Mm-hmm. All it is mind. That's really what it is letting go of that thinking mind and thinking that you've always got to be narrating, doing something, assessing something, categorizing something, weighing the options, planning what's next. All that is mind. And it's letting go of that. I think I talked about this before, but I'll just mention it just because it's very easy and helpful. But Sue Morter talks about the thinking mind as this spinning fan. And our true higher self, intuitive self, if you will, is floating behind that fan, or above and around that fan. And the thinking mind is constantly going. And we just kind of get these glimpses of our true self, higher self, as the, there's breaks in the fan, or moments,
It's like a strobe light.
Yeah, we can. So I use that mental picture often when I'm trying to relax. And I picture this fan, and it's that overactive thinking mind. And then and this is a technique that Jeffrey Allen talks about. I should have played it because it was great and I utilize it. But he does this thing where he takes his awareness. He's like, when you're really in a headspace and you're in the thinking mind, you can feel your awareness between your eyes. You can feel it right between your eyes, above your nose. And it's very much so there. And to get out of that, you go back and up with your awareness. So you kind of take a step back and you come up a little bit in the back of your head and it's resting there. That kind of helps take you out of the thinking mind. And that was very helpful. And I do that often. And I realized I did that before I heard that technique. That was something that on my own journey I developed, which is removing the awareness from between the eyes, putting it back and up behind the head so you kind of have a clearer view of what's going on.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people call that the crown chakra when you go up. So you're receiving information relative to your sequence of genetic makeup, or consider your path, if you will, rather than information that the world thinks you need to know, because that ends up in that part of the brain that gives you a headache.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is where a lot of us are stuck.
Yeah. So, and I remember getting out of that, and now my default is not in that place, but I accidentally fall into it. But it's not a big deal. It doesn't take me down. I just recognize and get back into that my natural state.
Yeah.
Where before it was the other way around. I would accidentally fall into this blissful place and had no idea how I got there. And then like, oh, well, there goes that.
Got a lot to think about.
I had a brilliant day today and it's gone, But now it's the other way around. Now it's like I get aggravated and I laugh about it because I know how to get back into that state.
And that's where we want to be.
Yeah.
That's where life really starts to get fun.
And if you're not there all the time, who cares? Just knowing how to get back there. It's not about, people saying, how do I stay there? I'm like, that's the wrong question.
I like that at the beginning of this clip, what Jeffrey Allen said was stop trying so hard.
Yeah, you can't try. That's the way of the power of paradox. This is something I like to talk about a lot. Is stop trying to move towards something, and it's most likely those things will come to you. But you have to have zero expectation on it. And there's such great paradox in it because people think we have to do something to get somewhere. I'm like, no, just do nothing. The less I do without feeling I have to do something, all of a sudden I feel better. And when I feel better, yeah, you do stuff. It's just a natural state.
It naturally happens.
The kid wakes up in the morning after having breakfast, just runs out the door. Mom's like, put your jacket on. And the jacket was in the kid's right hand as he ran down the block, Mm-hmm. Made it there, and next thing you know, the street lights were coming on, went home. No planning, no nothing. He was just an energy source running towards the energy.
Yeah.
That's it. And I don't care how old you are, we can be there. We can get back there. We can remain there. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Instead of thinking like, I wish I was young again. I'm like, no, you're young now.
Yeah.
Just get into that state. It's brilliant. And, Jeffrey Allen's work will teach you how to get there, how to reacquaint yourself with that. And when you do that, it's a brilliant thing. Life becomes amazing.
Well, you start to feel good, too. He's somebody that when I put him on, I was like, God, this guy just makes me feel good. And that's why I brought him to Frank. And I was like, hey, we should cover this guy.
Yeah.
He feels good.
Yeah, actually,
listen to his stuff.
That's one of the things I do. When you listen to somebody like a Jeffrey Allen, just listen to him. Don't try to write down notes and pick stuff up. Just listen. Mm-hmm. Just the cadence of his voice is meditative. And then what happens when you're in that cadence of meditation, like all of a sudden that information's already being imbued in you. Why? Because you already know it. It's already in your DNA. You're not learning anything new. You're just like, oh my God, that's so right. And like, yeah, it's right. He's just telling you what you already know, but it's been clouded over or covered over.
And you know it's right because of how it feels.
Yeah.
Not because, this dude who used to be a computer engineer is saying it's true. No, it has nothing to do with that. And that's what I'm getting at is like you begin to realize and hear truth in a whole different way by how it resonates with you. And you're like, oh my God, that is so the truth.
Yeah, him being a computer engineer gives him a different way to utilize analogies for other people to get it. Mm-hmm. But the feeling that he feels and that you and I feel or some 5-year-old kid feels isn't different.
Yeah.
But he's able to explain it in a way because of his background in computer engineering, which he had obviously came in aptitude towards it. So that gives him that ability to help people learn about it. But once you get it, you get it. Doesn't matter if you even know what the word engineering means.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys like what you heard today, check him out on his website. We'll put contact information and good stuff like that. We're trying to get Jeffrey on the show too to come in and speak live with Frank and I. So we'll tune back in once we have him on the show. But yeah, all over Mindvalley. Check out his content on Mindvalley, on YouTube, on his website. Like Frank was saying, he offers different courses. There's a lot of great information out there.
Yeah. And then, just have fun with it. Don't think you have to do it. Get to a place where it's exciting to do it. And then this is where the work really works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in this week.
Yep. Peace out.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Yep. Much love.
Thanks, all.
Bye.